Why is it that some of the smartest people, most educated people out there are broke? They're bad with money. Doctors, dentists, brain surgeons, attorneys. They go to school a long time, right? We go to school a long time, yet we're so bad with money. Well, in this video, we're going to discuss the number one money habit that's keeping us poor. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Jeff Anzalone, periodontist on a mission to get you to the point that work is optional. Do me a favor, download the free passive income guide I put below this video. Now, I went to school a long time, and once I hurt my wrist about 10 years after I got out of practice, I started rethinking how money was coming in, because if I couldn't work as a dentist, a periodontist using my hands, I couldn't provide for my family. So I started studying wealthy people, and I realized that many of them kept referencing just a few things, a few books, a few people that they listened to. And one of the main ones that they talked about was the Purple Bible, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And I started reading about his story. And some people say it's just fiction. Some people say it's not. But either way, it's a great story. And it really illustrates a point that it doesn't matter how smart you are. You know, he had a rich dad, and his rich dad was like an educated college professor. And he was broke. And his other dad, so that was his poor dad, his biological dad. His rich dad was actually his best friend's dad, who I don't even know if he went to high school. He was a dropout, but he was one of the most wealthy business people back then in Hawaii. And he would look at both, growing up almost in both households, he could see how both of them were using money. And he realized that people are so concerned, especially doctors and dentists, we're so concerned about making money, how much money we make. And it's totally backwards, because if you have money problems, if you're having an issue with money, what are you always looking for? More money, right? We're throwing more money at the problem, yet we don't know how to handle money. And we're going to talk about that in just a second, of the main habit that's keeping you poor. But here's the thing. It made me remember not that long ago, my son and I, he's a big Dallas Mavericks fan. We were over watching a playoff game. We're riding around looking at all these skyscrapers, and they're knocking down like all these buildings, dilapidated buildings downtown, and they're rebuilding. And, as we're driving, we're looking up, and he was like, dang, Dad, he's like, what type of foundation do something? I mean, how do they even do all that? How do they engineer that? It's like, that's a really good question, because I said, look, they spend sometimes just as long as digging the foundation, putting in the solid posts and concrete and steel and rebar and all that to build these skyscrapers. And it got me thinking think about that type of foundation that has to be laid down first, and then they can build up on top of it. But think about how most people approach money and approach wealth. They approach it and they go out and they go, well, I'm just going to go pour like a little 6-inch concrete slab, which is what most people just build their residential house on. Yet they, on that little bitty foundation, they try to put a big skyscraper, a big apartment building on it. And that is why it's not a skyscraper anymore. You try to put that on that type of foundation, what happens? It turns into the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? So the thing that I want you to think about is you have to focus on getting the foundation first, okay? Getting that foundation first, then anything else that you build on top of it, you're golden. But yet, the system is set up for us that we go to school, we're educated, we're all we're doing is treating patients and learning about how to learn the skills, learn the techniques necessary. And they don't teach us anything about, number one, money, finances, even though we're going to be making a good bit of money. And number two, they don't teach us anything about running a business or practice, right? And I'm not going to even go into all the different studies that tell you why so many of these pro athletes that get right out of school, why they become bankrupt, and why so many people that win the lottery, why they lose all that money. It's because of this whole concept that I'm telling you. It's they don't have the financial foundation, because if they had that, everything else would be much easier. And the main thing that he talked about is this, and this right here. So people don't have a money problem. We go to school and we learn how to make money, right? You're a doctor, you're a dentist, you're orthopedic surgeon or whatever. You learn a skill, you get out with that skill, you can make money. We don't have a problem with making money. We have a problem on? We have a problem with how to spend money. And you're like, well, wait a minute, Jeff. What do you mean how to spend money? If we're all broke, or everybody is so broke, we know how to spend money. We don't know how to spend money on the right thing. And that is why we're in the position that we're in. It's because of this thing right here. And here, my friend, is probably the biggest. If you can get this and you can understand this, what to spend your money on, you're golden, okay? And it's this: asset, liability. We're up here, we're making money, and you can either spend your money on an asset. Literally, this should be taught in like 5th or 6th grade. And I really didn't. If I'd learned it back in college, I don't remember it. I didn't learn this until I started teaching myself on myself, teaching this on my own, okay? This is the difference between the wealthy people And this would be the poor, this will be the middle class, and then most MDs and dentists fall into this as well. Because the rich people spend money on assets. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. The biggest lie is, what's the number one asset? What's the American dream? We all want to do what? We all want to buy a house. Everybody says that's your best investment. It's your biggest investment ever. Question: does your house put money in your pocket or take it out? Unless you Airbnb it, I don't know about you, but mine takes a lot of money out. Taxes, insurance, maintenance, costs, upkeep, maintenance, all these things, right? That right there, this whole thing, this is your foundation right here. All of this is your foundation. And then from that, if you know that, everything else that's going to be built upon it will just fall right into place. Because the wealthy people focus on assets that are putting money back into their pocket. Broke people, poor people, middle class people, most doctors and dentists, they're focused on spending their money on liabilities that they think are assets. Now, when this book was written, I believe, 1997, I'm sure there was some social media, but it wasn't that big. I mean, I know there wasn't Instagram. I don't think there was Facebook, anything like that. So he wrote this pre all of that. Now it's even worse because we get out and we make a lot of money. And what do? We look to see what other people are doing, right? It's that FOMO, that fear of missing out. So now it's even worse because we're making money and we're spending it on liabilities. We look where other people are traveling, looking at their trips. We're looking at their boats. We're looking at their cars. We're looking at their houses, all these things. We're constantly scrolling, right? We're constantly scrolling and looking at what's going on. And that's what we're spending our money on. Instead of going, wait, maybe I should spend it on an asset, but let me show you what can happen. And he goes over this a good bit. And more than likely, if you're a business or practice owner like myself, hopefully you've seen this before. It's a P&L or profit loss statement. Okay. So we have income, we have expenses, and then we take our assets, and we have our liabilities. Literally this again should be taught in grade school, no later than middle school, okay? And the thing is, this is what's crazy. It's such a simple concept, yet the most intelligent, most educated people get it wrong. This is the number one habit that's keeping them poor. And here's an asset. Here's the cash flow of an asset. Asset, think real estate, think a business, makes money, right? Asset makes money. That's the cash flow pattern of an asset. Guess what? If the wealthy people are buying assets, how are the wealthy people making money? Their assets are making the money, right? That's the cash flow pattern. Now, the cash flow pattern of liability, think what everybody's trying to buy. House, cars, boats, trips, all that kind of stuff. Here's the cash flow pattern of a liability. What do all these things kick off? They all kick off what? Expenses, and expenses go out like this, right? Your house, again, all the maintenance, all the upkeep, insurance, all that. That's what kicks off the expenses. Well, if here you are up here, here's your JOB, guess what? You make money, but what do most people do? I'll put it in a different color so it'll show up a little bit better. You make money, comes down here, you're focused on what? Broke people focus on liabilities. Liabilities, it's like that. Expenses. That right there, screenshot it, send it to people. That right there, if you can learn just this, you'll be wealthy. Because every time you spend money, you'll think, okay, do I want to operate like a rich person where my assets, I make a money, my income comes in. So here's the rich person. Here's the rich person is here. You're a dentist, you're a doctor. You treat patients, you make money. Instead of it coming over here to go to liabilities, it comes down and you get assets. And now your assets are making money. And now the money from your assets are what? Paying for your liability. That right there is the number one habit. It's keeping most people, doctors, dentists, high-income professionals, probably just most people poor. It's because of that. And again, and it's just getting worse because people in the healthcare profession, it's getting way worse than when this book was written because now you have private equity coming in. And once you sell out to them, many times they'll make you an employee now, they'll pay you a salary and they'll take over the business, but now they control what you make. You have insurance reimbursements going down. You have PPOs and government coming in. You have all of these things that are suppressing our income, thus making us work more, making us work longer just to keep up with what we did last year. We have to work more to make the same, sometimes even less. And then haven't even talked about the taxes yet, because if your main source of income comes from you and that's it, then you are taxed at the highest rate. Active income, that's the highest tax rate. Employees, self-employed people, that's the highest tax rate. Now, over here, money coming from assets, that's some of the lowest tax. That's passive income. That's why the rich are rich, and that's why the middle class, and other people, most people are poor. So let's think about what happens when, let's draw this again. Let's talk about the new couple. Okay, we got income, we got expenses, and let's say it's two dentists that they meet in dental school, they get happily married, and they're a new couple. Now they've been used to living in a cramped apartment, right? So they get out, they move into the cramped apartment, they want to save some money, and they both start work and they combine their income, so their income's going up, right? They went from a dental student to now two dentists working at two different private practices. They're making good money, but they're living in this cramped apartment, right? They're like, well, we want to get out. We want to have a family. We want to buy a house, right? So what happens is they think about that, but they don't think about, well, again, we don't talk about what's typically the number one biggest expense that we're going to have. Taxes, right? If they're working from somebody, Social Security tax, Medicare. If they're self-employed, self-employment tax. All of these taxes are reducing their income. A lot of times we don't take this into account, but you got to pay your taxes. You got to pay your fair share, right? So then we get out and we go, okay, well, we want to buy a house. We want to have kids or whatever. So then what happens? The cycle begins. Right here, liabilities. Well, if you get a house, you got to put what in it? Furniture. You have to do the drapes. You have to do appliances. You have to do all these different things. Then you have to look the part. So you got the house, you got the car, you got the furniture, you got the country club, you got the private schools, and just over time, this keeps increasing. Remember what comes with liabilities. Liabilities kick off what? Expenses. Even though they have a good income, here they are right here, their income's coming in, their income's going here. Maybe they put a little bit money into a 401k, maybe, but this keeps going up. This is bracket creep. Some people call it lifestyle creep. This is bracket creep, tax bracket creep. It keeps going up and going up, but the liabilities keep going up. The expenses keep going up. Why? Because of our little couple right here that are married. Guess what they never got in dental school? They never learned the financial foundation of what we just talked about here. It's a shame that they weren't taught this, just this simple fact. Instead of spending all their money on liabilities, maybe focus on instead, and they make enough money where they can do both. You make enough money more than likely that you can do both. I did this as I was paying off my debt. I was not only focused on paying off my liabilities, but I was also peeling off money to put into assets. It doesn't matter how much you do it, just do it a little bit. And then over time, you'll be able to put more in, and the assets start kicking off money here and then here. And then you look up one day and you've got 10 streams of income coming in, and you're still just going to have one main. This is your biggest wealth building tool right here, right? This is your job. This is what you spend all the time, energy, money, and effort on getting that degree. So get really good at it, make a lot of money, okay? And that is what's going to feed this. This is what's going to feed your income. So let's finish this with one more very, very quick illustration. Again, I want to keep this in very, very simple terms to you, okay? So here's the typical doctor dentist. They have their income, they have their expenses, but here's the difference. They have this, their liability, and they have their assets. But here's the difference. That's the difference. But remember, I want to keep this as simple as possible. How do the rich people operate? They operate like this. Assets. Still want you to live a little bit. Still want you to have a little bit of liabilities, and they have their liabilities. Folks, it's not hard. It's not rocket science. If you're a doctor, if you're a dentist, you're an attorney, you're a smart person. You went to school a long time, like I did. You sacrificed. You delayed gratification. You can do this. So I encourage you, anytime that here's how I changed my thinking. Now, and I'm not talking about going out and buying a $200 something, or I'm talking about buying, a house, a car, a boat, RV, something that's, several tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. I just want you to change your thinking. Okay, yeah, and you want this liability, you want this thing, but immediately shift over to thinking, what kind of asset can I get? And we buy a lot of real estate, and we do teach about real estate syndications, and we also have other things, other properties as well. But having a real estate syndication, a group investment, can allow you to be focused on what you know best, your profession, your career. So you can keep growing that to buy the assets that are going to pay for what? This income is going to pay for your liabilities, right? So here is how you get rich. Got your income, assets, that's it. Get that picture in your mind right there. You want to get to the point where the majority of your income is not coming from you. You're not trading time for money. You're not trading time, trading patience. And this is just a cycle. You get to the point where where work is optional to you. You can buy what you want. You can have the most important thing is the freedom, the time to do what you want. You want the time freedom. Can't get that back. Now, I know I've talked just a little bit about real estate, and that is my favorite investment. And if you want to learn how I got started and the different types of investments that the majority of that we're building our wealth in, the real estate syndications, if you want to know how that works and that structure works, check out this video.